Welcome, everybody. Happy Saturday. Hope you all are doing well. Macaw 45, Ultimate Game of the Living Daylights. Well, we'll see about that. Yay, Carrot, Space Opera Copter, lurkers in chat, VOD viewers, and everybody else. Greetings and welcome to another installment of Games Bond. I don't know what you call this. The supplemental materials for Mission 5. Hey, what's up, Tango Bunny? We did play through, in one way or another, the Commodore 64 version of James Bond 007 in The Living Daylights, the computer game. An interesting game, a cool game, a not terribly well-balanced game in terms of difficulty. But, you know, I think in our chronological journey so far in James Bond games, I think it's reasonable to say a high watermark. It's got 8 levels, all depicting scenes from the film in a, let's call it, recognizable, if not, extremely faithful fashion. It's got some interesting mechanics, got some interesting systems, it's got some great visuals. But it's a little bit clunky. Hoping for some Spectrum action. Well, I was about to say you won't be disappointed. You might be. But yes, we will be checking out the Spectrum version. I did a little bit of additional research and data gathering, and I have a couple of different versions of the game lined up from a few different developers. We talked about this briefly on the last stream. The Commodore 64 version is credited to Sculptured Software. But I believe, as always with these kinds of things, credits can be a little bit iffy. Now, in these particular games, they seem pretty good at actually having the proper credits listed in the games themselves, but sometimes it's not exactly clear. Even when you have the names of individuals and you have the name of companies, it's not even entirely clear what person worked for what company or what exact involvement they had. Now, again, having the actual names of people and credits involved in the game itself is like orders of magnitude better documentation than you might get in some cases. But it's also tricky because a lot of the sources you'll find on the internet are not very accurate, or they're not very they're not very accurate to begin with, but also it's like they're not very consistent. Like when I need to find information, and this doesn't even go for like somewhat obscure 80s computer games that came out for 8 different platforms, but even like relatively major console games from like super mainstream publishers, it's not uncommon for development companies just to not be credited correctly. Well, let me rephrase. In the games themselves, of course, credits would often not be very thorough or sometimes present at all. But what I'm thinking of specifically is going to resources like Moby Games or Game FAQs or some other big database that has a lot of games. You might be surprised how often the information that's there is just flat out wrong. Even in cases where it is very well documented in the game itself. In this case, for example, I think Moby Games and possibly Game FAQs both list Sculptured Software as the developer for all versions of this game, which is absolutely not the case. But you have this kind of additional layer of confusion where there appears to be credits for at least some versions of The Living Daylights where the developer credits are for each respective company. But then you have, I guess, the design credit to a person who may or may not be associated with Domart, who published the game. the development structure of a lot of these games could be a little bit convoluted. So it's perfectly understandable that some of the information is a little bit tricky to get hold of. But I've done my best to credit and attribute people correctly, and if any information turns out to be wrong, by all means, feel free to correct me. Madrol, greetings, welcome. But it's interesting, yeah, because clearly, as we looked through the manual last time, there was one manual issued for every version of the game. And each version of the game is based on the same game design. So the mechanics and the overall structure and system is essentially the same between the games. But there are significant differences between them too. Like, it seems clear to me that there was a design document essentially typed up, and each developer kind of went on their own way to, implement the design. And they all chose to do it in sort of slightly different ways. And two different levels of quality, you might say. I think, having looked at a few other versions, I think I did make the right call, even though it was not made on huge amount of research. But I think I made the right call in kind of considering the Commodore 64 version, the main version of the game. It's the one that seems kind of the most elaborate, at least in some ways. It arguably seems to be the most playable version. But we'll see. That's my impression so far, having, of course, not really spent that much time with the other versions just yet. But we'll do that, and we'll see how they compare. But it's gonna be interesting. It's a cool game, so I'm eager to do, to check out these other versions. But we may not necessarily do this for everything going forward. I think it depends a little bit on how different the versions are, how much interest there would be on my part, or your part, I suppose, or like academic interest, I don't know, in specifically checking out each version. But anyway, we'll spend some time with that today. We'll see. I think some versions, one or two at least, have a trainer, so we can more or less be guaranteed to see the entirety of the game. At least one version I think we will not be able to see that much of, because it seems unplayably impossible. But that'll be interesting as well. Yes, Tango Bunny. There was actually a couple of different like Bond collections and stuff, because I think the Spectrum altogether, even not counting the James Bond action pack, which was the light gun bundle, there's another James Bond collection that has like 5 games on it, I think, which does, well, it does not include the 2 light gun games that were unique or specific to that release. But I think that bundle had the 2 light gun games and this game, The Living Daylights. I think that was the case. In fact, we can look into that. We have, of course, some data here that we can check up. So let's see if I can organize this. Boom. This is, of course, James Bond 007 in The Living Daylights, the computer game. Came out for Commodore 64, Amstrad CPC, the MSX, ZX Spectrum, Atari 8-bit. There's another Amstrad version, I think, as well. Quite a few different versions that are arguably more different from each other than some of the other later games. Because, of course, in this era, all computer games had, like, so many different versions. But it's like, a lot of the time, I think in this case, as you say, McCall, like, this is the one that had different developers doing these different versions. And it seems to me like they weren't, they don't really look like ports. It doesn't look like there was one base version that the others were based off of. They're all kind of, there's enough little idiosyncrasies and differences between them that doesn't make it seem like there was one sort of core version that the others were based on. In some cases, you like, it can kind of feel a bit more like that. And it's also, you'll see today too, there's some versions that, like the ones that were made by the same people, have a lot of more similarities, of course, than the ones that were made by others. So I won't jump to conclusions here. You may be right, Macaw. There will be different versions here, and for the other games that have different versions as well, time will tell how unique they are. I'll try to do a little bit of research when we get to those. But yes, Tango Bunny, you brought up the ZX Spectrum James Bond 007 Action Pack. You can see there's, of course, the Living Daylights artwork front and center, which makes sense because I guess Lord Bromley's estate and Q's armory never had any artwork at all. Did, of course, feature a tape with Desmond Llewellyn giving some kind of mission briefing. I haven't looked into it, but I really should check and see if I can find that tape audio somewhere so we could listen to it on stream. That would actually be a lot of fun. It's the bundle you had. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I'm not very familiar with the Spectrum. It was definitely not a big deal over here. Or if it ever was, it would have been before my time anyway. But, and you know, the C64 was plentiful, and that was certainly before my time to some degree anyway. I mean, the C64 was around until the early 90s, but, you know, there were Nintendo stuff, Amiga games and computers were very common, so even in between all the different like consoles and computer stuff, like the ZX Spectrum, I don't think I ever came across back then. But I guess this is a, well, it says Spectrum Plus 2. I'm just looking at the picture. The Spectrums I've seen, I guess, are more the original ones that have like they're this big and they're all like plastic and rubber and they feel awful. This looks like an actual proper computer. Vague memories of one of the light gun games. You need to press spacebar to move. That's pretty good. It's like the Resident Evil gun survivor games, I guess, with a little bit of manual movement. But yeah, I only found out about this when I did the research to put together the game list for James Bond, and yeah, the idea of a Spectrum light gun just seems so baffling to me. Like, I just like, how could it possibly work even halfway decently? I mean, at the time, I'm sure it would have been a novelty and it would have been cool, but I'm just thinking of like even the NES and Master System light guns being so awkward and clunky, and I guess like 16-bit stuff is also kind of weird because light gun games were, I feel like they were much bigger before that and after that, but I don't know. I mean, hell, even like PlayStation GunCon stuff can be pretty dodgy sometimes. So to imagine the Spectrum, which is like, seems so, I don't know, feeble, incapable of a system, or anything that would involve like sort of quick real-time reactions and response. I don't know. I mean, we'll see when we get to those games. I don't have it fresh in memory now, but I did a little bit of testing and research, and I was able to get some kind of, I think, mouse emulation to get it up and running. But of course, you won't get the full experience, but it'll be, we'll make as much of it as we can. Yeah, it certainly looks a lot like the Master System gun, which is also kind of peculiar. Although, again, I have very little experience with the Spectrum, so my, mental image of what the Spectrum is capable of and what to expect of Spectrum hardware or software is certainly not very well researched. I don't know. I have no idea. So could be cool. We'll get to it when we get to it. It would be remiss of me not to mention, of course, that for the duration of James Bond, we are also running the Q Branch Research Funding Initiative for development of additional technology required to take on the bonus secret hidden missions. We have 50 missions, 50 games to play on our list, but there's a small handful of extra ones that we'll play whenever Q Branch, with the help of you all, will manage to develop the necessary technology. All contributions in the form of subs, cheers, donations, merch sales, etc. will contribute to this goal. And once we reach it, we will do another mission briefing on the first additional bonus game and add it to the list. So I'm looking forward to that. Hey, what's up, Mr. Radon? There's no Baccarat controller. This is a subpar Bond simulator. I mean, I guess we'll see when we get... Well, I was going to say we'll see when we get to Casino Royale, but I guess in the new version, didn't they change it to like Texas Hold'em or something? I don't know. Not many novelty controller James Bond games, though. Missed opportunity, one might argue. But, in fairness, I think you could probably take a Baccarat controller and have it be compatible with a Texas Hold'em game. I think that could work. But, speaking of, there's, of course, let's see if we can find our way to that. Let me look at the game list. Lest we forget, game number 48 out of 50 is Top Trumps, the best of Bond. Developed by It's All in the Game, baby. Developed and released for feature phones in 2011. It is a licensed card game, mobile game. So that'll be exciting. There's a lot of mobile Bond games. Of course, if you would like to see what games are on the list, you can check it out yourself right there. That's the official Games Bond spreadsheet. There is also the VOD somewhere on my Twitch channel of the initial mission briefing stream where we went over all these games. And there's all the lore on all the games upcoming. But this will probably be, I don't know, a few years from now. Never played any kind of Top Trumps. The fact it turns up all the time in stores and games baffled me. I had in my life not once ever heard of the brand or product Top Trumps before finding out about the existence of this game, but I did get all kinds of results as I tried to Google information about this game. It's a UK thing. Yeah, I think like because like from my understanding, it's a like it's a series of licensed card games, like physical card games. So there's like Top Trumps games based on a billion different things, and there's probably physical James Bond Top Trumps card things. That my card is a higher number. Yeah, it seems like a very simple kind of thing, but it kind of similar to how there's 50,000 different branded versions of like Monopoly. Like this is just a super duper basic game that had, you know, you can get a deck with James Bond pictures, or you can get a deck with, I don't know, Star Wars pictures or whatever. Marvel superheroes probably. Can't wait for J2ME Quantum of Solace in 14 months. Dude, speaking of games that have a lot of different versions, I mean, we have Quantum of Solace. We have Quantum of Solace. We have the portable Quantum of Solace. And indeed, the mobile Quantum of Solace. All different games. That should be fun. I'm really looking forward to all this like late era stuff. We're kind of trudging our way through the microcomputer swamps here at the early days. But frankly, I'm still happy that this has been as interesting as it's been. Nothing has been purely painful. I mean, hell, even A View to a Kill, which was literally unplayable, or certainly unfinishable, ended up being a fascinating rabbit hole to dive into. And it was a cool game, even if it was a huge mess. And it did have an awesome SID version of the theme song. I think that is absolutely the biggest flaw of the Living Daylights, or certainly like the biggest missed opportunity. There's no like SID or I mean any like, well, I was gonna say SID version or any other music, like chip music version of the theme song, but none of the other versions really like. I mean, we'll hear what the audio is like in the other versions. I think they have the same music, or at least they're credited to the same person, but it's pretty unremarkable. I actually went to look quickly on just on YouTube to see if I could find if anyone had done like a cover of that song on the SID. but I couldn't find anything. That doesn't mean that no one's done it, but I couldn't find it on YouTube at least. A shame, a shame. But yeah, we've got a lot of Bond adventuring to do before we get to all these mobile games. So let's just enjoy the here and now. We did, myself and a few of us, watch the film, The Living Daylights, as I like to do, as we're going through these games that are based on films directly. Make sure to watch the source material before we play the game for the full experience and to better appreciate, and in some cases understand, what the hell is going on in the games. But I thought for today, what we should do is help out a little bit for viewers who may not have recently watched the film, and we can watch the trailer and get a nice little 2 to 3 minute summary of what The Living Daylights is all about. I mean, the poster does a pretty good job, you know. There's some guns being fired, guys on horseback, bridge exploding, car, sexy lady. Although, interestingly, most of the scenes depicted here, although they are faithful to what's happening in the movie, they're all from sections of the film that are essentially not featured in the game, which is kind of funny. That's an interesting thing I noted before as well. Like, the game has 8 levels, which is a lot for this kind of game from this time period. They're all based on scenes from the film that, like, make sense to turn into video game levels, but there's still major action set pieces from the film that don't feature in the game at all. I feel like most games like this, it's like 5 stages, half of which are made up and don't even happen in the film. But I guess that just goes to show that this movie actually does have a lot of action. It's kind of cool. Oh, you watched the trailer? You were too excited? Well, let's all get in on that excitement then. Let me turn down the jams here, and let's check out the trailer for The Living Daylights.
The name that means excitement is back. Bond. James Bond.
That girl must be very talented.
Shoot up.
Believe me, my interest in her is purely professional.
What is this?
I've had a few optional extras installed.
Wherever he goes, adventure follows.
2 of our men are dead. Koskov's named you.
Then I must die.
Eliminate him.
Kill him! He lives for danger. He lives for the moment. He lives on the edge.
Whoever she was, I must have scared the living daylights out of her.
James Bond, 007, The Living Daylights.
It's a pretty good trailer. Yeah, what's up, Netscape Navigator? Starman, I don't think I said hello. NPC, I should wear a tuxedo. That seems like a lot of work. Seems both expensive and tedious, and we'll see. Maybe for the finale. I think it's a cool trailer because, yeah, it does show kind of a lot of what's like the cool moments, but it doesn't like give away any of the plot. Like, you just see that, oh shit, this movie's got a lot of cool shit in it, and I think it delivers. Like, you wouldn't see that trailer, like, having seen the movie recently, it's not like this trailer is misrepresentative of the movie, and it's not like, oh yeah, the movie has 15 seconds of cool shit and then it's nothing happens for the rest of it. Like, it's a pretty action-packed movie, and every major sequence that we saw bits and pieces of, there's like several kind of big moments that aren't really in the trailer. So it's not quite as, it's not like those Hong Kong movie trailers that are like 5 minutes long and show literally all the exciting stuff. Dude, I remember, like, if anyone was, I don't know, on the internet in like 2003, 2004, when the trailer for the live action Kashan adaptation came out, people were like going fucking crazy. And I remember being so pissed because that movie, like that trailer, was like 3 minutes of like insane anime robot action, like super sick, well done, like CG martial arts anime fighting. And then the movie is like 2.5 hours long, and it has one action scene that like 80% of it was in the trailer. I haven't seen it in, I mean, since then, so I would be interested in rewatching it just to see if it like how I feel about it now. But I remember at the time I was really disappointed in it because the movie, or like the trailer, was super like misrepresentative of what the movie was actually like, and I don't think this is. So I think it's it kind of gets you excited to see the film, knowing that you're in for an exciting time, but it doesn't actually explain, like it doesn't even having seen the movie, I don't think there's any of the stuff you see with the characters don't really give away too much. Because I think the best part of this movie is definitely like the plot. It gets a little bit messy towards the end, but like it has an actual good sort of mystery to it. And there's like an investigation and puzzle pieces kind of fitting together, and it has some twists and turns. And it's not necessarily like twists as in you see it and like, holy shit, you know, I didn't see that coming. You watch it a second time and it's like there's no point to it or whatever. But it's got like good spy intrigue, and you could watch, like, you could cut together a trailer like this for a movie that has good action and nothing else, but this actually has more going on than you even see here. But yes, Mr. Radon, that's pretty much my take too. Like, I think Dalton was, at least in this movie, I haven't seen License to Kill yet. We'll watch that relatively soon, probably. There's yeah, it's the game. The next game after Living Daylights is Live and Let Die, and we're gonna watch that movie tonight on Discord. So License to Kill probably we'll watch sometime in the coming week, because that's the game after that. But based on the Living Daylights, I think Dalton was a cool, like, good casting. I think he brings, certainly compared to the, you know, the last Roger Moore movie, there's an intensity and like a much higher degree of believability to Dalton as like a physical action kind of Bond than Moore. But whenever he tries to quip, like, it's insincere and
think of nothing better,
uncomfortable, and a little a little weird. This game has 0 issues. Bold statement, but I guess it's true. Quan Chi wouldn't lie. You can't trust a sorcerer sometimes, as we all know. But yeah, that's the Living Daylights, the movie trailer. Let us see if we can get some gameplay action started here, shall we? I decided that we are going to be starting off
It's like one of my Japanese animes.
It is certainly like one of your Japanese animes in some regards. We are going to start off with the Atari 8-bit computer version, for the simple reason that I wouldn't want to build up to this. Is that a fair way of putting it? Well, you be the judge, I guess. We'll get into it, and I'll let you determine what to make of it. And we'll see how far we're going to be able to get into it, I guess. So this is literally an emulator I've never used before today. So, oh boy. Okay, hang on. All right, let me pause. Okay, so this thing, it boots up whatever you had running before. We're in for a good time. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Let me see if we can get this capture going. There we go. So for all these different computer games, I have like all these different dumps, and some of them work better than others in different ways. I also need to just check real quick if I think that's about correct. I have to use like Joy2Key for some of this to try to get controller setup working. So we'll see if that works. See if I can remember which of these dumps worked. I should probably just bring up the audio mixer here too, by the way, so I can just crank down the volume. I guess I need to unpause. Okay. I think it is actually loading. Let's do some warp speed. Okay, we're okay. We're okay. The Living Daylights, the computer game, written by Day-Ray Software, which I don't know who they are. They don't seem to have many credits. I couldn't find a lot of information. I didn't dig that deep. But it is not developed by Sculptured Software. It is not developed by Walking Circles or Domark or anyone else, I guess. Unless this was the pseudonym they used when they didn't want anyone to know that they did this. I don't know. So let's see if I could possibly have set this up correctly. Okay. So far, pretty similar. The jumping, if you can believe it, is actually even more fucked in this version. Because it's like, it's almost like Prince of Persia-like. You can only jump on certain, like, grid lines. But it's not like you jump on the closest one when you tap up. You basically have to be holding up as you run. And then once you hit a spot in the grid where you're allowed to jump, Bond will make the little jump. Yeah, see? So I held up for about a second before hitting that stone. And I still missed the jump. Visuals in this are pretty cool, though. Oh yeah, another weird thing about this version is you have to hit the button to start aiming. But it does actually shoot. So that's why I'm always shooting at the edge of the screen as I'm trying to aim. In the Commodore 64 version, you just hold left. And you start aiming into the screen. Also, I realized the timer's not running. Let's address that. Boom, there we go. Also, this version has like 50,000 million enemies, even on stage 1. It looks like when I'm running like this, they're mostly missing me. Oh, also, stubbing your toes on a little rock hurts about as much as a gunshot wound in this one, which is an improvement. I need to switch. There we go, I shot him. Yeah, so switching weapons is about 5 times slower in this version. Oh, no timer capture, sorry. You're right. Boom, there we go. Yeah, this game is extremely intense. So I'm not very capable of reading chat. Alright, there's Costco. Let's escort him. So my life bar is still carrying over from the last stage, as you can see. Jump over manholes. But yeah, so in the Commodore 64 version, getting shot drains like a pixel of health. Stubbing your toe drains like somewhere between 15 and 20%. This stage appears to not have civilians in this version, which makes it a little bit unclear to me what the purpose is of using the night vision goggles. In the Commodore 64 version, all the characters are just black silhouettes, but if you use the night vision, you can distinguish between innocent bystanders and the snipers. And shooting a civilian loses you points. Oh, we cleared the level. Oh, for this one, I guess we need the hard hat. I like this Q lab graphic, but the weapon select is a bit tricky to make out. Okay, so I guess weapon hard hat. I shoot once. I guess I have the hard hat equipped now. So in this version, there actually are... Yeah, I failed in my mission, Bond. Game over. You have 1 life in this version. You have 1 life. So it's about 3 times as impossible as the Commodore version, but instead of 5 lives, you get 1 life. That's why I don't expect to make much progress in this one. Yeah, as far as I can tell, I don't know if I successfully used the hard hat. For all I know, maybe you have to shoot at Bond on the screen to equip it. I don't know. Because with the... I mean, I guess not, but with the night sight or night vision, infra, whatever, they call it different things in all the different versions. In the Commodore version, you just hit the weapon select thing and it just enables it. But here you have to change the weapon and then like fire to activate it. I guess you activate the hard hat. But anyway, what I was trying to say is in the manual, I think, or maybe it was in the wiki thing we read, somewhere it was made mention of falling pipes. But in the Commodore version, there's actually dudes up on the, like in the rafters, like throwing stuff at you. But in this version, there are actually like falling, oh, I guess they're pipes. The validity of a pacifist strat is up for debate, but we'll try it. The thing is, like, some enemies shoot a lot. Some like don't really shoot at all. And I agree with your instinct, McCall, because I felt the same way. Like, it's so slow. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm at... You keep getting shot at, and anytime you kill enemies, it seems like you're, any time spent shooting enemies is time not spent moving forward. But to be honest, like, all of my testing is inconclusive. But I think it's almost... Like, I don't want to be mean. I want to speak out of turn, but sometimes it feels like any attempt at analysis as to, like, what's strategically the most sound based on assumptions about how, like, the game logic works feels like it may be giving the developers too much credit. Well, I shouldn't say giving the developers too much credit, but, like, giving the development circumstances of the game too much credit. Because knowing what I know about, like, 8-bit computer game development, which, granted, isn't much, but from everything you hear from, like, interviews and whatever else, it's always like, yeah, I smoke 3 packs a day living under my desk for 5 days straight of no sleep, and then we delivered the game. Like, it's always that kind of shit, right? Alright, I accidentally got the explosive pen. I wasn't paying attention, that's fine. Because we're gonna die in 2 seconds anyway. Oh, yeah, you only have 1 round, so like, the scrolling screen UI when you swap weapons, it looks cool. But it makes switching weapons take an additional, like, 2 or 3 seconds, during which enemies will shoot at you and you are completely defenseless. Like, it just does not seem... This is kind of what I mean about, like, difficult... Oh, I got hit by a pipe in the face. about the whole difficulty balancing situation, where like, how is it meant? Like, in the Commodore 64 version, the first half of the game is like perfectly sensible difficulty-wise, and then there's 2 levels that are mega. I shouldn't say mega impossible. They're mega difficult, at least. We spent a good chunk of time with infinite lives trying stage 6, and I could not get through it once. I think eventually we enabled the infinite health just to push our way through the levels, and it seemed to me when I did play through the full level that we did actually get very close to the end of it several times. But close doesn't cut it, you know. You need to finish the game in 1 life to move on. But here, you know, if I had 5 lives in this version, it might be fine. But I don't. I have 1 life, so what am I supposed to do? But yeah, it doesn't seem like the game was, you know, going back to that idea about the design document, outlining how the game is meant to function, what the levels are, what the enemies do, the obstacles, the weapons, all that stuff. But it's like, that's all the same. And I mean, the enemy behavior is arguably not that different, but they're more aggressive here. Like, I'm sure it wasn't specified in the design document how frequently enemies should spawn, you know, how, you know, their accuracy works. You know, not to say that older games could not be complex. Certainly there's a lot of computer games from like the 70s that have like, you know, far more complex simulations or like recreations of certain types of behavior or logic or whatever than is necessary. Like, in fact, I feel like that was kind of a thing with, as game design developed as a discipline, kind of understanding the value and benefit of simplifying things for the benefit of the player to sort of understand how things fit together. And also in some ways to make things work in a reliable, predictable way, etc., etc. But I think, again, it's nothing nothing to do with the individual skills or, you know, knowledge of the developers or what they were capable of thinking of and figuring out or even implementing, but more so that I feel like games like these would often be developed under a very rushed schedule. And I mean, given how many games out there that are like ports of major arcade games, for example, that was made by like one British 19-year-old over 3 weeks with no access to the source code or anything, and like they miraculously managed something that is even approximating the original game, but clearly, you know, not a lot of money was spent on it or time. And I think this is probably not that different. And under those circumstances, the fact that they even have so many levels that are visually distinct is like impressive. And the fact that the game functions is about the limit to what I would expect in terms of, you know, gameplay complexity and sophistication. Thank you for the follow, Mr. Raiden. Appreciate it. So, like, if I were a betting man, I don't know, and let's say, you know, were I to wager whether this game has some inscrutable logic and strategy and, you know, design to how all the enemy behaviors function, or if someone just threw it together and said, fuck it, I don't know, my money would be on the latter. I guess we can give it one more go. But it's interesting to note, like, some slight difference here, just in terms of how it functions and the level. So, in case it's not clear, in this game, you have your main gun, and for each level, you can have one alternate weapon / item. For this first stage, you always have the paint gun, and it is, in fact, your default equipment. This is to kind of simulate the scene in the movie. This is the opening scene, where Bond is part of a training exercise so that's why they all have paint guns. But there's secretly a traitor in their midst who uses a real gun to murder another agent. And that sort of sets the plot in motion.
Look, you!
Fairma52, thank you for the follow. So, the idea here is we shoot these guards with paint guns, and then this guy, the traitor, has to be shot with a Walther, and that's how you complete the level. So here, the way the screen stops scrolling when you reach the final point is a little different. So it's like more obvious when you reach the point where that guy will spawn in this version than in the Commodore version. So here, so after every stage, after the first one, you go to Q's lab in between stages. You pick an item for the next stage. And for this one, you are meant to pick the night vision, because they do use night vision in the movie. This is where they help Koskov affect significantly more snipers here than in the film. But, you know, it's a video game. Fucking lethal manhole covers. Even the fact that he's on screen following you is a really cool touch, in my opinion. Like, even this version, it's like significantly less visually competent than the Commodore version. It still looks cool. Like, it still would be highly playable if there was a way to, like, reliably avoid getting shot, whether from dodging or, like, shooting enemies. Like, I referred to before, like, the American Laser Games shit, where, you know, the FMV Laserdisc light gun games, where they, you know, they just went out and filmed someone walking around with a camera and people, like, jumping out and firing their gun. And, like, it was basically entirely dependent on that one individual's performance, like how quickly they fired their gun. So in some instances in some of those games, you know, you just have dudes pop out and, like, within half a second or less, they just shoot, and you have to know that they're there, and you have to hit them with pinpoint precision. And that's obviously something you can't really, like, you can't tweak that game balance, because the video... Dude, I think the hard hat... Either I didn't use it correctly, or it doesn't work, because I definitely took damage from the pipe there. It is, in fact, impossible to avoid damage. Yeah, this is like fucking Revolution X. On a thread on Atari Age with the developer discussing timeline of doing the port. From what I remember, Colin had less than a month to finish it when he never owned or used an Atari before. See, that sounds about right. And you know, on that level, like, it's a pretty impressive effort, right? It's just not very playable or good or fun. Let's see if we can make it there and see if we can fire a hard hat onto James Bond's head. But yeah, like, the one obvious issue with this game is that the aiming is so slow. Like, the enemy's behavior conceptually, like, makes sense and is cool, but it does not gel, you know, it doesn't fit with the player's capabilities. Because I'm simply not able... You know, I shot a dude as he was spawning. He was coming out of the ground, and I shot him before he was fully upright. And my life bar still, like, decreased. Like, there's no way of taking cover. There's no way of being strategic about sort of when to shoot and when to move. Enemies keep spawning with no rhyme or reason. There's no, like, discernible pattern or timing to it. I don't get health back in between levels, and I have 1 life. That's like the incredibly fucked part. But even in the C64 version, where you at least have multiple lives, you still don't get any health back. Like, it has all the same issues with how the enemies work. At least in the first stage, there's not quite as many enemies. Like, there's so many enemies here. But yeah, we're sort of speculating on, like, talking about the sort of impressiveness and how the game was kind of cool for the Commodore 64. With a little bit of tweaking to the game balance and some slight changes, it could be really great. And I think it's a compelling concept of this sort of, you know, background crosshair shooting action combined with, not platforming exactly, but sort of scrolling action. There's stages later, at least in the other versions, but like from stage 4 onwards, the stages have like enemies on your foreground layer as well. So you have to aim the reticle down towards them and also dodge projectiles that they shoot at you, like from the right. So it becomes even more of like the Mega Drive Dick Tracy style of combining, you know, Rolling Thunder gameplay with Cabal gameplay. But the real issue, of course, is the fact that you can't quickly switch. So a simple second button. Okay. Okay, no, I have the hard hat equipped, so I think it's there. But yeah, like, I can... If I was trying to wait here until, like, the coast was clear and it's safe to run, you never get to go anywhere. Like, even with the reticle on screen, enemies spawn and shoot so quickly that there's just no way to take them out quickly enough. And, you know, add to that the fact that you are required to spend a significant amount of time with the reticle not on the screen because you have to move forward. That's how you progress through the level. It's just, you know, just doesn't quite come together. But like I said, it'd be cool to come up with like a well, I shouldn't say a modern take on it, but a take on this that uses more than one button and doesn't require you to physically move the cursor to the edge of the screen. Dude, hell, even being able to press a second button to start running. Like, let's pretend for a second that you only have one button, but when I'm aiming and shooting, if I like hold the button and like push the joystick in a direction or something, like I instantly switch back to running. It's also kind of, I don't know, I feel like what they could have done is you press the button when you're in running mode and the reticle appears like maybe not in the center of the screen, but like not all the way over to the edge. I don't know, it's just funny to think Bond has to run and then like, oh shit, there's enemies there. Let me... Alright, I'll shoot them. Okay, I gotta start running again. Let me just... Okay, now we're running. Like, that switching between the two modes is just too slow. Hell, even having some sort of cover system or something to hide behind. So you had to make like a decision as to, alright, let me just get over to this point and then I can go into aiming mode. I'll take out a couple bad guys. Alright, looks like the coast is clear. Let's start running. Like, that could be compelling gameplay. But here it's just whatever, fuck it, random. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Or back pain. He's sure in some kind of pain here. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna... Let's see here. I have a couple of different disk images. Some of them appear to have some kind of acronyms attached here that would indicate... some kind of a crack. Yeah, so this one says... Chav presents, broken by the one-man hard. So I think this one, this is what I recall. Let's try this. I think I have like infinite health here. Yeah, so let's just run through this level. The Atari ST version. Yeah, like we kind of talked about that. Like, I think it was listed somewhere as having an Amiga version, which it is not. But 87 is like, you wouldn't necessarily expect an Amiga version. Yeah, there we go. Oh shit. I need to take out, I need to make room for the, for this. There we go. But it, yeah, it, like by 87, I feel like it could have had, I mean, I don't know, it had plenty of versions, but it would have been interesting to see a more graphically advanced version. But we will see some slightly more advanced versions than this, at least. So as you may have noticed here, I no longer have infinite health. So you can use the crack to, like, get through stage 1, I guess. But Koskov is now a ghost. And I started taking damage again. I guess there's no rolling in this version. I mean, you do a little tumble when you bump into things. But in the other versions, you have to do a roll to dodge certain obstacles. Quick damage from that. I mean, this allows us to get to the pipeline, which I think they call like the industrial complex or something here. Actually, does this version have yeah, this version doesn't even have the stage intros. The cursor also, like, the reticle stops when you fire your gun. It's a little harder to do these, like, rapid fire. Oh, dude! Did you guys see that? The pipe just, like, fully drained my life bar. So either I'm still not using the hard hat correctly, or it just doesn't work. Yep. Well. So, I don't think I'll, like, continue or something in this version, do I? Nope. Maybe there's, like, some undocumented... Well, I guess I can't die in this stage, then. I was gonna say, if I could go back to the title screen and, like, some number keys to pick a starting level or something? I don't know. Well, actually... there may be... Let me open up another image. So I have another one that appears to, like, the file name seems to indicate that this is also got some kind of a crack. Maybe this was the one we already played? I don't know. Well, I'm already taking damage, so... Well, I feel like we've given this version of the game a reasonable amount of coverage. Some might argue more than its fair share of time and effort. And the thing is, again, like, we could probably spend an infinite amount of time here, and I would feel no guarantee whatsoever that we were ever going to see anything past stage 3. And keep in mind, at least if the Commodore version is anything to go by, these are the easy stages. Stage 5 is the easiest, actually, but, oh shit, I accidentally switched. But stage 6 and 7, like 4, 6, and 7 are the really hard stages. Big Atari 2600 fan, just perceive this as a mysterious high-powered 2600 game. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any... Like, feel like the Atari thing I've spent the most time with is like the Jaguar, and even that's not much. At least with 2600 games, I guess like I have like that wasn't a huge thing here either. And to the extent it was certainly before my time. But at least I have a sense of like what to expect visually, more or less. But neither the Atari ST or these older computer platforms are anything that I have. Like I said, like I haven't even emulated stuff like this for any of these other projects I've done. So this in particular is definitely uncharted territory. I think it looks like we're doing better health-wise than we did before. Oh, what's up, Brunin? Thank you for the reminder. I'll get to that when I have a second to spare. Okay, I've tried to shoot a hard hat onto James Bond's head. Okay, so it looks like the... No, okay. So these small pipes, I'm not sure if you have to jump over these big barrels or whatever they are. You do have to jump. I was just about to say, I'm gonna get hit by that and I'm gonna game over. Alright. Let's hydrate and relax. I think we're done. I think we're done with that. I guess we can pause the timer for now. And we'll set up the next version. 2600, your first console. Didn't have anything between that and the PS2. Yeah, the Mega Drive was the first console we had in our household, but we had I grew up with Mac computers. My dad was a big Mac, well, he still is, but he was a big, like, Mac fan from the late 80s. I think we got our first Macintosh Plus in, like, 88, something like that. We had a Micro B computer, I remember, even before that. But I don't remember games ever being a thing on that, really. Or anything specific. I want to say it had, like, an orange and black monitor. I think that's all I remember. But yeah, a lot of my formative gaming was on the Mac Plus. And, you know, I had friends who had NESs and Master Systems. But we got the Mega Drive, I guess, in 91, because we got it with Sonic. But mysteriously, like in one of the rare instances I can think of seeing that happening, my Mega Drive actually broke. I remember it was late 95 or early 96, like right around there, because I remember a friend of mine had gotten Batman Forever for Christmas for the Mega Drive. And I remember we playing it at my house, like during Christmas break, and I think that was like one of the last times my Mega Drive booted up. And after that, it was just like dead. And the next console I got after that was a Dreamcast, which I got in like 2001 when they were discontinued and cheap. So yeah, in between that, I definitely did mostly PC gaming as well. Although I got into like playing games on emulators and stuff in like the mid 90s, basically mid to late 90s, and I certainly played a lot of console games elsewhere, but in terms of what I had personally and had available in my home, it was more PC centric. And it was more PC centric, and I got an Xbox in 2003, I think. And then I eventually got a PS2 in like 05. And since then, like, that's about when I transitioned more. Because that was also like in the early to mid 2000s is when I got more into fighting games, competitive, like going to events and stuff. And just broke my armrest. That's fine. Oh, I didn't technically break it. I just disassembled it, but that's fine. Snaps right back on. but I didn't. At that point, like I didn't keep up so much with PC gaming. It's like, so I was more focused on console stuff, and then it hasn't really changed since then. In terms of like, I mean, I still buy and play games on PC, but I'd rather like I like the convenience of console stuff. Anyway, enough of a history lesson. Let's move on to the, let's see here. Let's check out the ZX Spectrum version. Let's see if we can get a something or other going here. I think yeah, that's gonna be good. Yep. And can I OBS, please? Boom, there we go. Nostalgia time. It is a bad game, but a fondly remembered one. That sounds like a fair assessment. Let me get the details updated here before I forget. And this was by Walking Circles, I believe. Let's update this if the title screen says otherwise. I need to change my Joy-to-Key config here to use QAOP and space, the deranged British keyboard layout for stuff that doesn't have arrow keys and whatnot. So I believe for the Spectrum also, I have like 5 different dumps. Yeah, so I think this one, yeah, like some of them don't have music. There's one that has music, but like doesn't load properly. So we'll go through a few different versions. Yeah, this splash screen is pretty cool. Yeah, I have the Walking Circles logo there. So some of them, you can kind of make out what's happening on this screen a bit more clearly than others. But this is from the opening scene. This is Bond, I guess, picture there in cyan, parachuting down to Gibraltar. So I think, yep, there we go. So the credits: program code and graphics by Graham Stafford and David Fish of Walking Circles. Designer Richard Naylor, music effects David Whittaker. I assume those two people then work for Domark. They're credited on other versions too. Which is kind of interesting because I would have thought, I mean, I don't know, but something like music in particular, like obviously one person can write a design doc that people implement on various computer platforms. But in terms of creating the music, even if it's composed by someone, you would have to kind of program it or implement it. And I don't know that I would take for granted that the same person would be even capable of doing it on multiple platforms. But I think David Whittaker's the only credit we've seen. And I think this is the same music, basically, right? So that's kind of interesting. But that's kind of what I was mentioning before, like the credits not being necessarily super easily just like figure it out, I guess. The same 15-second loop, yeah. 15 might be generous. So the CPC version, which we're going to be checking out after this, was also developed by Walking Circles. And from what I've been able to see, I think that was the case at least. But the MSX version and this looked nigh indistinguishable from one another. And MSX emulation is a bit of a headache, so I frankly didn't bother. But from what I could see from pictures, I don't think we're going to be missing out too much. Like, you know, speed and playability might be different between them, but that's also, I think, probably so much up to what hardware config you have, or even how you set up emulation and whatnot. But it doesn't seem like either version would have a lot of unique content or features over the other. And in fact, this may be true for the CPC version, but that one is a lot more visually exciting than this. So let's see here. I'm not sure if this Level 1, Gibraltar. Okay, so this might just crash here. Yeah, okay. So I think we're going to load up a different dump that doesn't have like the full intro sequence or whatnot. I think this is the one I played. Yeah, it's like it's got audio, but it's missing some channels. But the other versions I had didn't play any audio at all. So I think this version will at least let us play the game and hear sounds. Find out. Yep, there we go. So this version has the basically invisible enemies. But it's like pretty quick and snappy. And we have 5 lives. I think this one also will kind of... Oh, that's... Walter PPK. Dude, that does so much damage. Oh, I think I killed him. No, I didn't. I died. Oh. So I think in this version, you actually have to kill multiple dudes at the end. Because the manual, I think, or the somewhere I read something talking about having to shoot multiple guys with your gun. But the C64 version, as well as the one we just played, only has the one guy. Dude, my health is like just draining by itself. Like, this version seems arguably even more impossible. I did, however... I mean, I don't know, maybe those of you with childhood memories of this can tell me if you beat the game. But if enemies spawn here in this, like, cliff section... Look at my health! It went down, like, 25% while I was trying to move the cursor over to the weapon select. Like, enemies just start shooting so quickly after spawning, and your health drains so fast. Like, I barely moved out of the first screen, and I'm at, like, 80% health. Maybe I need to do, like, fire like this to make the game run more slowly. But even when dudes, like, are in the midst of crouching and are clearly no longer shooting, and or there's, like, bullet marks hitting, like, several feet to my right or left, my health is still draining. Alright, so when we have, like, the full-size cliffs in the background, that's when the final dude is gonna show up. Stop scrolling. Someone is shooting at me! I cannot see where they are. Oh, I died. Okay. So for this version, I did actually find a video that with a full playthrough. But because the CPC version is pretty similar, and I think I have a crack for that version, we probably shouldn't spoil ourselves watching that before we check out the CPC version. But we'll definitely take a look at that video just to see what finishing this game looks like. And just seeing all the levels and everything. Because, of course, the graphics are pretty different. But, like, I start running, and my life bar just starts draining super fast. So, yeah, I, like... How is this Commodore version, like, that much more playable? But I like the speed of this. Like, it moves pretty snappily. Of course, there's a lot of slowdown. And this guy just pops up and shoots real fast. Alright. I died, I guess. Like, what am I... I'm switching to my gun, and I'm shooting, like, 5 of this guy, and it just keeps going. I mean, I think. Unlike the Atari and Commodore versions, in this one, it's very hard to tell when you actually hit an enemy. Because in those versions, they, like, change colors, and there's a sound effect, and there's... on the Commodore, even a little animation of the guy getting hit. But here, they're just like, oh, I guess they crouch down. But because they do so pretty quickly and randomly anyway, it's not easy to tell whether it was because you shot them. Oh, look at my life. Okay. I like that the stages are short, at least. So he just, like... There's, like, fucking whack-a-mole. As soon as I see him, I start shooting because I want the game to slow down. So I have improved odds of being able to get my reticle over there. Does it, like... Does he not show up if I'm aiming close to him? This is stupid. In here, like, my bullet impacts are, like, hard to distinguish from the enemy sprites, even. Like, surely I'm hitting him, right? No, okay, I was like, am I done now? Nope. Alright, well, okay. Lives 0 counts, apparently. I can see his little head there, but I can't shoot him. Like, I saw a few seconds of the playthrough video, and it looked like they were basically going like this, like, just rapid-firing constantly, which I guess, like, makes sense. Like, once you're shooting, you want to just shoot as much as you can. But is it even work? I don't know. Man, this even puts, like, it looks like there was even 4 guys on screen for a hot second there. Like, you kind of see them, you see their little heads when they're crouched. Well, not here, but there's, like, no sense of actually hitting anything. Oh, look at my life bar. Just melting away. I'll catch up with chat in a second. Where's my cursor? Oh, there we go. I'm off there. Let me try to... I was gonna say, let me try to push the screen as far as I can first. Didn't beat the game. Get the impression this is more tolerable with the gun. Was this playable with the light gun? I mean, I guess, like, looking at the game, it seems like having a light gun would, like, make sense for it. I'm just surprised to hear that because this game came out in '87, and it obviously came out on all these different platforms. And the light gun bundle, at least, didn't come out until, like, 1990. It's possible that they would have, like, made an updated version or something that was compatible, but I didn't find any information indicating that that would be the case. I don't know if I have... Obviously, I didn't, like, look into setting up the emulator setup and everything to use the light gun today, because I wasn't planning on playing those games. I think I use a different emulator for that. But I think because the light gun games I have, Lord Bromley's Estate and Q's Armory, they're all separate images. Oh yeah, I do have this thing called The Living Daylights Mission 0. Has an 87 upright on it. I don't think it... I don't know. Let's boot that up. Okay, shows this. MGI, greetings. Yeah, This version is arguably the least playable just because of the visuals making it so tough to see what's going on. And like I said, the MSX version appeared to use basically the exact same visuals. Sky blue. Well, it's the perfect rock texture that really okay, so fire. Well, I wonder if this you're meant to use a light gun and hit fire. Like I said, I don't have that set up for this, and I think it's fair to say that we've given this game fair shakes. But I think when we get to the other light gun games, since I'm gonna have that whole setup organized for then, I'm definitely interested in taking a second look at this to see if by any chance this is actually supposed to be light gun compatible. Because that would obviously be a game changer. It would literally change the game entirely and actually kind of make it function. But it certainly doesn't make sense that it would be designed around it. If it was only, you know, compatible in one version that came out 3 years later. Well, like I said, there is a playthrough video that I have, and we can take a look at that. But because that might arguably give away a few things that we might see in the CPC version, I think we should switch over to that first and just check out that version and see if we, like I said, I think that one does have a trainer. It's got a level select and everything, so we should be able to play through the game similar to the way we did on the Commodore 64. And then just out of morbid curiosity, we can watch the full playthrough video of the Commodore version. I tried to look on YouTube to see if I could find a playthrough of the Atari 8-bit version, and I could not. So, I don't know if there exists documented evidence of anything past stage 3 in the Atari version. Yeah, I think, Tango Bunny, I think I had the light gun set up in Speccy. I'm using Inspector right now, because it's the one I had like on hand that I knew that I could boot this stuff up the most quickly. I know that I reached a point where I was satisfied that I could get it to work enough to add those games to my game list. But because it was like a few months ago at this point that I actually did the testing and setup, I just don't remember the specifics of it. But let me write that down just so I can take a look at that myself, because that does not ring a bell. So it is possible. Like, it's always like, especially with old computer shit, like having options and being able to check things in different emulators with different setups. There can be all kinds of differences between them in what makes something either just playable, or for that matter, you know, capturing and everything. Like, especially I found a lot of these old PC emulators, they have like weird shit going on with their UI and everything. Like, a lot of them have, as this one does, there's like a status bar in the window that I have to crop. Weird shit like that. And sometimes you can only play them in windowed mode, and they only, like, you can't get them in a, there's no like option for multiplying the size of the window, so you can like, oh, you can get it up to 3x size, and that's still like tiny on a modern screen. Like, it's a mess. This is a large reason why old PC emulation is not something I do very often. I guess the other big reason is that it's not something I'm that interested in, you know, compared to old console games and whatnot. But still, for a cause like this, it's very exciting. We are going to check out the CPC version, but I think before that, I will take a short break. Just go stretch my legs a little bit, go refill my beverage maybe, and I'll see you guys in a couple of minutes with the ultimate version of the Living Daylights. Who knows? We're going to find out in a little bit, but I'll see you guys then. All right, I'm back. On some Zap articles. Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing. I don't think we'll go over it here, but yeah, stuff like that can be interesting. I mean, I think you would find no shortage of balanced reporting. You know, I think the like the late 80s, early 90s British gaming press, I think, is probably the most unabashedly, like, just straight up paying for coverage. I feel like it was completely ingrained in the, like, computer and video game reporting culture at the time, that it was just like all the publishers, either they like wrote articles themselves or just paid for it. Like, it was just like, that's how it was. So I mean, that's kind of, we talked a little bit about Rise of the Robots when we played the Super Nintendo version the other week, right? And now that game was like famously super hyped up and got like amazing reviews, even though it's like a bit of a piece of shit. And I think that's like, I think maybe that was a turning point for that. I don't know. But I feel like certainly when it comes to old computer games, like, it's funny to me, like, in my mind, having not like read too much of it myself, but I always had the impression whenever you see like reviews from like Amiga magazines and stuff, games were either like 4% out of 100 or they get like 92 and 96. Like, the games were always like weirdly highly or lowly rated. But yeah, speaking of, I think I saw on some, as I was looking for, I was trying to find different dumps of these games to see if I could find stuff with trainers or whatever. I think I saw some Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia, but like some wiki page or some like Spectrum database page or whatever for this game that had like a couple of review scores. And I think this got reviews at like 81% or something like that, like 70, 80-ish. And I just feel like, man, it's a cool game, but like, you can't even see more than like 10 screens into it because it's impossible. How do you even review something like that? I don't know. I mean, it was a different time. Like, things, the frames of reference you would have for reviewing stuff like that would of course have been completely different. But even so, it's interesting. With that, let me then see if we can get our CPC system up and running here. Those first screens, pretty great. I mean, it doesn't have as cool of a title screen. The C64 version is still the winner for the coolest title screen. It is cool that some of them are all like a little different. But the Commodore 64 version has like basically the adaptation of the movie poster, and it looks pretty awesome. I like the reticle with the parachuting bond, which I guess we'll see here in the CPC version as well, but not as cool as the movie poster title screen. Okay. Let's see if we can get... Nope. It's not what I wanted to capture. Here we go. Let's get these jams out of the way and see if we can boot something up. So this one, yeah, right, this is the one that has, I have a few different dumps, but I think we'll go with this one. That's the classic XOR French crack. To say, let's turn this down a little bit. Saw this a few times in the Double Dragon Marathon. Before I forget, let me just update the details here. So we'll resume the timer here. Alright, so we get to pick here if we want to party normally or we want some infinite energy. I say we do this completely normally first, and then we take it from there. So we select the level of departure, and we'll depart on level 1. See, with a bit more color, this is a little clearer. And it's still, like I said, still cool. We can actually even see that there's multiple parachutists. I'm not sure if the second guy was invisible in the other version or just propped out or what, but... Yep, so we got Graham Stafford and David Fish. So I think David Fish did the graphics for both versions, but was the programmer different? I'm not sure. Dude, I need to fucking turn it, like... Audio is like literally 2% in Windows and it's still this loud. I don't get Windows audio levels. Okay, so this also has the horrifying QAOP spacebar control scheme. But I have it all set up with Joystick key. I was trying to slightly advance from last time, so I'm using my bootleg Retrobit Super Nintendo USB controller instead of my NES one. I was thinking, well, the NES one worked fine, but my thumb got pretty tired from using that D-pad, and I felt like I had a lot of false positive diagonals and stuff. So, yeah, let's try another controller here and see if the D-pad works any better. I'm not sure if it does, but it is what it is, I suppose. Got some fancy color cycling animation here. We had little icons for the stages, like in the Commodore version, and look at this. Cursor is still, like, moving on a grid. Get sound effects. We still have absurdly overly aggressive enemies. It's like weird acceleration on the cursor. But you can kind of see that it's very similar, just... You can kind of see what's going on here. But I want to say in my testing, I did actually beat stage 1 in this one. I may be misremembering. Okay, probably time to swap. Yep, there he is. Yeah, my life bar isn't melting quite as fast. Just rather fast. Might have hit him, but I don't know. See, I somehow didn't die there. I did die there, though, but okay. Yeah, the visuals make it a little easier to see stuff. Look at my health. Like, was there anyone on screen? Ugh. I don't know. Just like the Commodore version, I guess, like, a lot of it comes down to luck. My health, okay. Oh, the vertical speed of the cursor is super slow. I guess it has to do with the resolution or something. Like it's moving at the same pixel rate, but it's like double width pixels or something. So moving it up and down is excruciatingly slow, which of course you need to move the cursor to the bottom of the screen to change weapons. Yep. You trip on a rock and you get shot 5 times before you can stand up. Am I meant to take these guys out? Doesn't seem like it, does it? Like in the Commodore version, sometimes enemies sort of pop back out after, like they show up and make themselves visible and then disappear for a bit. But here they do it pretty often. But yeah, the rate of fire, like they just shoot so goddamn much. Scrub King, greetings. Happy Saturday. Like, oh! I know that I saw the Q lab screen in this version. I must have cleared it. Maybe I did use the crack. I don't think I did though, or the trainer, whatever. But again, in this version, like, you can barely even tell if you're hitting anything. Because a lot of the time, it seems like they just duck when you move the cursor close to them anyway. And sometimes it kind of feels like your life bar starts draining whether or not someone is on screen shooting at you. Like, even having infinite lives isn't helpful. Like I said, I mean, this is kind of similar to what the final stages were like on the Commodore version, but this is literally the first stage. I think I hit him? I think I died. It sounds like a level clear jingle, but yeah, I died. I guess I can kill him 4 times, but he only needs to kill me once. So yeah, even though I like this version visually, the Commodore version is still so much more playable. But I'd like to play this with, like, double health or something. Not infinite necessarily, but to improve your survivability. Okay, my health bar is at all-time high for being at this part of the stage. I guess I got lucky. Oh, I think I hit him. I got points. You're gonna alternate between these two? Maybe I need to scroll further. Maybe that was a mistake. Oh, this game! I had 50% health when I got to the end of the stage. I was literally, like, hovering with my cursor where he's appearing, like, 50% of the time. I shot him 4 times? I think maybe 5? And it wasn't enough. Who's shooting at me? No one is on screen. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't scroll that 3rd spawn, 4th, whatever. This is just fucked. This is so fucked. But I know... Oh, man. Well, I was gonna say I know that I cleared the stage once, but I guess I don't know if I did it properly. Well, I'm curious to start from stage 2, because... maybe, you know, stage 1 is the, not the only stage, but one of the few stages that have, like, a specific requirement for beating the stage. All the other ones, you just have to kind of make it to the end. And, I don't know if I need to hit 10 of those guys, or, like, in most other versions, it seems like you shoot the one guy. Which, of course, is... You know, there's only one guy in the movie. And I don't know why they needed to make it to be, like, multiple different guys, because there's already 8,000 dudes shooting at you. There doesn't really need to be... Like, it makes it cooler, I think, that it's just the one guy. Instead of it's like, no, here's just the second enemy type. And there's 8 of these guys, and they drain your health twice as fast. Ugh. We get 5 lives, but... it doesn't help that much, unfortunately. But let's, I guess we just insert the image again and we get the little reset, yeah. Yeah, the infinite life is gonna basically, you know, turns it into a full sightseeing mode. We're just going through the gameplay, like, at that point, shooting enemies is like fully pointless. So I want to use that as kind of a last resort. But I want to get a sense of how the different stages may differ from each other in terms of difficulty. You know, if we try 3 stages and they're all in, you know, we can't finish a single one of them, at that point, we might as well do it with infinite health, I guess. But, you know, we'll take it one step at a time. Let's depart from stage 2. And see if that goes any better. I wonder if this trainer will let us actually go to the Q lab. Because in the Commodore 64 version, when you skipped stages, you just start stage 2 with the paintball gun. Oh, nope. Here we are. I guess that's the goggles. You can kind of barely make out the car and stuff in the background. Level 2, the theater. Where's my night glasses? Yeah, I think I saw this. Oh, dude, they're on the 2nd floor. Dude, this is already so hard. But at least it has the civilians, unlike the Spectrum version. These guys are kind of invisible, though. Dude, my health. Look at my health. Dude, it's like literally just straight up draining. Yeah, I think we're gonna need to cheat our way through this. Oh, they changed positions here, so you have to actually, like, pay attention here. Let me activate night glasses. Okay, now we can start. And I'm already taking damage. Like, again, the graphics are awesome. I love the way this looks. Again, just like the C64 version, we have the little parallax scrolling with the big foreground objects. Like, it's an awesome touch. I legitimately feel... Dude, you keep taking damage when there's no one on screen in this version. The tactical roll did not, in fact, help. Like, I keep thinking you could have made a pretty slick NES game out of this. You know, with a little more detail in some of the graphics. A little more animation, music and sound effects. Dude, I haven't even reached the guy that... Like, you haven't reached the start of the level and I'm at 25% health. My health. You know, obviously having a button to toggle between aiming mode and running mode. You wouldn't need to expand on it that much. But obviously if you had core gameplay that functioned a little better, it would be totally fine if the levels were a little bit longer. But as it stands, like, it's just borderline unplayable. Hell, make it a Zapper game. Like, make it, you know, kind of like Gumshoe or something. Is there Batman fanfare? I don't know. It wasn't really a Bond stinger. I guess that's fair enough. But, like, how do you play this? You know what? What's even the point of continuing? Let me just reset again. This is just a baffling experience. Like, you know, I'm sure people have learned. People growing up with this, you know, what else are you gonna do? Just spend time with it. You can learn to make some progress in it, but just even on its surface, the design of enemies just popping up and like having your health bar drain. You know, it's absurd enough in like light gun games where at least you can aim relatively instantly, even if you're, you know, like Revolution X or whatever. But here, like, it takes, like, the time it takes for your cursor to move around, like, you can't win. Because even if you take out every enemy, like, you're gonna, you know, whether you're in aiming mode, aiming and shooting at guys, they'll hit you while you're trying to do that. When you're trying to transition to running mode, you'll get hit. When you're running, you'll get hit. When you're transitioning from running to aiming, you'll get hit. Like, there's no point at which you can actually avoid taking damage. The jingle from the C64. Like, yeah, I think I guess I know what you're thinking of. Like, the the movie Batman game. I don't quite recall. Yeah, let's go with Energy Infinity. But we'll start from the beginning. I want to see like what it takes to actually beat that first stage. We were probably very close, but even so, like, life carries over. Your life doesn't get refilled between stages. So, like, in the commoner version, I could beat stage 1 with, like, 75% health. We even got to stage 4 on our first life once. And that would have been, like, if stage 6 and 7 were doable, getting to stage 4 on the first life, you know, taking a death on 4... You clear stage 4, and then you clear stage 5, because that one's, like, relatively easy to do deathless. In fact, you can even do it without taking damage. And then level 6 and level 7 are both, like, impossible. But let's assume you could beat it. You just take a death so you refill your life bar, clear the stage. Stage 7, you do the same thing. Take a death, and you restart. And then you would have 1 or maybe even 2 lives left for the last 2 stages. And stage 8 is not as trivial as 5, but it's a short stage. It's basically just a boss fight. But, you know, when you can't even make it through 1 stage without dying. Let's hope the cheat actually works. Like, you can't even tell because it takes so long for the life bar to fill up. But yeah, clearly, we would have taken damage at this point. I like that the scoring is like totally different in the Atari version, because I would die on like stage 2 and have like 13,000 points or something. I think it's weirdly finicky too, or like, you know, it's precise. Obviously, you know, it makes sense that your cursor needs to be on the dude to hit him. Oh, we're at the end already. Okay. Try to count the hits. Oh, let's get the scrolling done here. Oh, we already are. Okay. We're at 220 points. I might have hit him there, but I don't think I did. The hit. That's a hit. 3. Oh, didn't get him. 4. I want to say I got him 4 times before as well. Is 5 the magic number? Oh, okay. Was that a 5th hit? Yeah, so it's 420. 6. 7. You have to shoot him 8 times. Holy crap. Like, when I was lucky and got to the end of the stage with more than half health, I was able to get like 4. But you need 8. It's pretty absurd. Whoops. So Koskov just keeps running in... Well, I guess maybe it was only in the pipeline stage. In the C64 version, when you jump over obstacles, he also jumps. I thought that was a cool touch. Getting shot at by so many people, we have slowdowns, looks like. But the refresh rate on the reticle is so low also. Like, because it's moving on this grid, it's like much harder to discern. Oh, okay, just run to the edge of the screen. So we got pretty close to the end of the stage before, maybe. Hard hat. Industrial complex, yeah, the pipeline. Oh yeah, I think I saw this in the playthrough. I'm trying to get the cursor. There we go. Hard hat. So this one is pretty different and much more sensible. There's no dudes shooting at you. They're just dropping pipes. And we have to roll under these. So this one would probably be pretty playable. Because in the Commodore version, this is where there start being like a billion enemies. It's kind of tricky to time the roll, though. And in that version, you jump over pipes, but you have to roll through like steam. Here, it's a little more visually coherent. I got hit there. that you jump over the low pipes and roll under the high pipes. Yeah. But still, even there, I took so much damage. Like, Atari version is the only one, I guess, where obstacles don't hurt you very much. Because it seems like in this, bumping into stuff still hurts you a lot. Oh, there's an Assassin Milkman. I'm assuming, yep, you trip on those. I try to jump. Yeah, so in the Commodore version, you really need to take out the Milkman so quickly that you kind of don't have time to bother with anything else. Are we done? Okay, that was a very short stage. Yeah, the stages overall are shorter in this than in the C64 version for sure. Oh, we need the crossbow for this one. This is the amusement park, fairground, whatever they call it. Yeah, the fairground. We need to equip the crossbow. Dude, the balloons are really fucking fast in this version. Yeah. So the balloons are immune to your pistol. There's a little stick of dynamite attached to the balloons, by the way. It's a little hard to tell. So you need to equip the crossbow to shoot the balloons. So you can see that the dude's running low on balloons. So you shoot 20 balloons. Oh, that's really cool. They're actually like specifically each. And then we can equip the gun. I'm trying to... There we go. Yeah, in the Commodore version, you can't walk on this level. So you don't have to walk over to the edge. But wow, this levels are really short. Oh yeah, you need the dart gun. This is Tangiers, I guess. Just based on the fact that we have the dart gun. Because you only have it on this. This looks pretty similar. But yeah, that's why these dudes are so fucking impossible. Because you need to roll or jump to dodge their stuff. And obviously, you know, you have to move the cursor all the way around. Who's shooting? Who is shooting? Oh, no one right now, I guess. There's like a delay. People go off screen and then bullets. Oh, dude, that's sick. Little Z's like they're sleeping when you shoot them with it. How did I trip on that? That's just stupid. Are those little black pixel indication that someone is hiding there? Yeah, even your movement, like I tap once and you move like on a grid. It's a little strange. Like the version is kind of like fast-paced and snappy, but the controls, everything about it is still... Where do you need to jump to make that jump? Like in the Commodore version, it's a bit funny looking that like jumping over obstacles, like the hitbox for stuff you can bump into is really tiny, so you just need to make sure to jump over one spot, basically. Oh, that was the first time I actually did the jump correctly. Yeah, but this one is more precise in the sense that, like, the actual space you need to travel over is larger. Let's go to the cigarettes. The guide that I read said that you can bribe the guards with cigarettes. Oh shit! Fucking motorcycle dudes? That's sick. And helicopters in this level too. It's like escalating like crazy. Alright, that's what you're kind of supposed to do. You kill the guys quickly and then you can jump or roll to avoid their stuff. It's pretty tricky. Like this is... I rolled too soon, I think. Whip the cigarettes. Like, I think in the Commodore version, it kind of seems like... Oh, I used them. Okay, yeah. Every weapon that isn't, like, a key item that you use for a level is just... You point it somewhere, and there's a little explosion. So all the items are, like, the same. Whitaker's house. So in the other versions, at least, he's just... Oh, I have the bazooka equipped. That's kind of cool. He's just gonna toss, like, knives or whatever high and low, and we have to dodge them until we... get to him. Like, very similar to the other enemies. I was gonna say, but he has way more HP, but no, we actually just kill him in one hit. We have the bazooka, I guess. Congratulations, you have killed Whitaker. The Prime Minister thanks you. That's the exciting ending. Well, I suppose at this point, the watching the playthrough, that's time, I guess. We finished the game, and I think we've given this more than a reasonable amount of time. But yeah, I was gonna say the Spectrum version playthrough is not gonna be that interesting in terms of seeing new stuff, but you know, I'll be curious to see what the levels look like. But the most interesting part is like watching actual gameplay of someone finishing the game. Living Daylights, a cool game. Like I said at the beginning of the stream today, I'm glad we kind of focused on the Commodore 64 version primarily. I do think that it's ultimately the most playable version. Like, even now, I can see conceivably, hypothetically on some level, being able to learn how to clear stage 6 and 7 in that version, because I know that we got close to the end of both of those stages. And every other stage in that game I could clear, and did clear, normally pretty much. So, it's the best looking version, the best playability, and some of these other versions have some neat things going for them. And I think it's super fascinating, whether or not any version is better or worse than the other, that there are tangible differences between them that go beyond, you know, the technical capabilities of each platform. It's not just the fact that you have a game that's on the Amiga and the Atari ST, and like the ST version is the same, but the colors are worse or it runs slower or something like that. But like the specifics of how they did, you know, some versions have the Atari version have the weapon selection, like scroll on screen, which looked cool, but you're defenseless for 2 seconds and you just get killed, which kind of sucks. The fact that the levels have different names on different versions, the fact that the hard hat like doesn't seem to function in the Atari version. Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. But let's wrap things up here. I guess we'll update the game details here just as we put this on screen here so that people aren't confused. And let's take a look at the playthrough of the Spectrum version. Let's see, where did I put it? I think I have it. Folder here. Nope, it's not the wrong one. Living Daylights, there we go. So let's take a look at this. All right, let me pause this and let's bring it on screen. And let me make it a little larger on my end. Yeah, this is about the best quality we could find here. So, I mean, it looks like gameplay, someone playing it, but I don't know. Is it a matter of luck or of... Because it's not like Deathless or anything. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff with setups and emulators and hardware configs and whatever that would determine maybe how much slowdown or something you'd have. But I don't know, it's one of these things where, like, yeah, I had a run that was not too dissimilar from this, you know, got to the end, maybe not with quite this much life, but maybe not too far from it. He only killed 4 dudes. He got 280 points instantly there. Maybe he got the... Okay. Maybe he got those points because he reached the end of the screen? Because he went from... jumped up... Let me skip back here. He jumped up from 40 points. See? To 160 to 280. Did he get a couple of kills right there that you couldn't tell? Because you can't understand anything in this game? Who knows? But after this, you know, again, in the CPC version, it seemed like we needed to kill the guy 8 times. And he hits him, like, 1 more time? And then the stage is over? This game is mysterious. Alright. He doesn't bother with the night vision, I guess. I mean, yeah, you don't really need to. Like, in the Commodore version, you can still distinguish the silhouettes between the civilians and the snipers. But it's, you know, it's harder than when you can, like, fully see the difference here. Okay, yeah, so he died there. Maybe that's why he didn't bother with the goggles, because he knew he'd die. I don't know. But probably, like, it feels like using any items is a bit of a liability. Oh, no, he does use it here? Okay. I like that in all of these versions that we played today, using the night vision just makes the screen brighter. In the Commodore version, it actually changes all the colors, so it's all red. Which is like kind of a cool effect, but it looks a bit ugly. Yeah, I mean, I feel looking at this, obviously you can't quite see... Yeah, I just barely made the end of the level. You know, if something was like doctored with this, whether it's like a TAS kind of thing, or if it's a hacked version where enemies do less damage or whatever, like, you wouldn't be able to tell. But it just feels like the survivability on display here seems suspiciously high. Not that I spent that much time with this version and like figured it out, but you know, there could be differences in even though they seem to play mostly the same, there could be still differences between this and the Amstrad version where this is easier. We're getting all the jumps and like obstacle dodging correct, which is kind of a necessity. But he probably won't, yeah, he'll probably die here, right? Yep. And much like what I kind of determined playing the Commodore version, aside from the ones that where you literally have to use the special items or like the optional weapons, trying to use them just seems like a complete waste of time. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess maybe you need to shoot someone in the background or something. Otherwise, that seemed like a bit of a waste. But yeah, look, he took like 10% damage all over that stage. Yeah, he got hit while selecting the crossbow. I was gonna say, that's pretty bold to just aim on the balloon guy, because if he misses a balloon, he has to go chasing after it, and that's pretty tricky. Yeah, the balloons are way faster here than in the Commodore version, but the aiming is more forgiving in this one. Yeah, sleep darts. Or sorry, dart gun in this version, I guess. Yeah, getting the jumps here is like weirdly difficult. I mean, the jumping is awkward and difficult in all versions of this game. Albeit in slightly different ways. I mean, it looks easy, right? You watch this and it's like, hey, yeah, you know, I could beat this game. Not my experience actually playing it. Yeah, dude, the motorcycle guys are so cool. They are not in the Commodore version. So stuff like that I think is really cool. Like having... Like that's the stuff that makes it interesting and worth playing these different versions, just to see those little things. I don't think this stage has helicopters on Commodore either. I think it's just a shit ton of guys in the background and the foreground dudes. This has like background enemies, the foreground guys with the knives, helicopters, and motorcycle. There's like way more going on than in any of the stages on the Commodore version. Although, I mean, there's plenty enough going on, because even that version, these stages are really difficult. Yeah, starts with a bazooka. Yeah, just shoots him before he gets to do anything. Although technically, I guess with the bazooka, you only have one shot. So maybe that was the... Maybe that's the idea. Alright, okay, it's looping. There we go. Oh, fucking hell, man. But there you have it, guys. James Bond 007 in the Living Daylights. Let's get some background jams here. Dude, Blockout. This theme is sick. The Living Daylights is a side-scrolling action game which features 8 levels of gameplay, centered around the Timothy Dalton movie of the same name. Yes. And I feel like I'm all Living Daylights'd out. But let us inspect what is next. Let's take a closer look at mission number 6, Ian Fleming's James Bond 007 in Live and Let Die, the computer game. That's a very impressive mouthful of a title. I love it. In fact, before I do that though, before I forget, once again, I apologize for not having set this up. I've been so busy recently, I haven't been able to put much time into updating and improving and adding some stuff for the stream layout here, but I currently do not really have a good capture or method set up here for the spreadsheet, but I'll drop a link right there. So if you want to take a look and see as I make some updates here, you can do so right there in your own browser. Lord Sculptured Software wins. Yeah, I mean, it has to be said, right? Like, no version of The Living Daylights was without issues. But the C64 one certainly had the best balance between fucked upness and like actual cool shit and playability and visuals. Like, if I'd played any other version first and gone to this Commodore version, I would have probably felt, holy shit, like, this is so much better, so much cooler. But it was still, like, the other versions, too, had some interesting stuff going for them. Obviously, the Spectrum is basically just a watered-down version of the CPC game. But even so, like, I love that even the most busted, broken, fucked up versions have some little neat thing about it that wasn't featured in the, you know, the better version. But if you were to pick one to play, hands down, it's the Commodore 64 version. So our status here, I guess mission status is completed. We technically didn't give up. We had the luck of having a trainer that we could use to get through the game and see all of it, but it was not finishable otherwise. Well, maybe it could be. The Commodore 64 version, I could conceivably see being finishable. Someone in this video finished the Spectrum version, but I don't know about that. Let's just update the comment here. Completed the C64 version using cheats to get through impossible stage 6 to 7. Other versions, largely impossible.
Unspeakable horror awaits you.
From start to finish. Track 0 is gifting subs.
Unspeakable horror awaits you.
Compl cheated the game, yes.
Unspeakable horror awaits you.
Self-destruct system, Sanuj Belmont, Ramon 88, Spiritual Chief, Kreska 74, Unspeakable Horrors
horror awaits you.
Await all of you. Track 0, thank you very much for your kind generosity.
Unspeakable horror.
I am a little bit perplexed as we currently should be seeing a little status update at the bottom of the screen there, as the Tree Branch research funding should be increasing. Let me take a look at that as soon as I'm updating this here. Got a lot going on here all of a sudden. But yeah, there we go. We've completed the C64 version using cheats to get through the impossible stage 6 to 7. The other versions, largely impossible from start to finish. We'll leave that as a comment. We'll come back to this like at the end of the project. We'll probably do a full analysis and review and the commentary and everything. But I think that'll do for now as a little, just a basic note. So mission start, November 16th. Mission end, 2022, 11/19. So we should change the color of this. And next up will be Ian Fleming's James Bond 007 in Live and Let Die, the computer game. But as we have not yet watched the movie, we have not yet prepared for this, we will not be playing this today. We will wrap up some housekeeping here for James Bond, and then we'll probably take a short break and maybe move on to some other gaming today. One thing at a time. Now, before we get into Ian Fleming's James Bond 007 in Live and Let Die, the computer game, let's see what the heck's going on with Q. Dude, I wonder if gift subbing gets all fucked up here. That could be a thing. Let me check here. Yeah, so this number should obviously have been increased. let me take a look at streamer bot setup here. I'll make sure, of course, that these we'll get the numbers up there as they should. This is still kind of a new thing for me, so every now and then we're gonna have some technical hiccups here. I'm still pretty new to StreamerBot, which is the system I'm using for this. So let me see if I can do some live troubleshooting here and figure out what is going on here. So gift sub, no action. Okay, well that explains that. Oh, there's so many. Oh, okay, fuck. Wow, okay. There's like, wow, okay. There's a lot of shit here to set up for tier 1. Okay. Yeah, I see what mistake I made here. Let me set this up. Yeah, because you can set up like triggers for actions to be played on gift subs and multi-tier, like multi-month gift subs and gift subs on different tiers. So I need to, if someone were to gift higher, well, not higher tier subs, I have that figured out, but if someone were to gift like multi-month subs, well, I guess technically if you gift someone like a 3-month sub, they could still like show up and do the monthly, like I just subscribed trigger kind of thing. Wow, okay, I don't know, this is confusing. But let me set up the things that I know I can set up. And I will be able to get the Q branch funding number up the way it should be, at least. Tier 2, there we go. It's a little bit complicated. Okay, gift bomb. Okay. Per tier and per subs. Oh boy. Wow. Okay. So this, I guess, what just happened here was probably a gift bomb, right? As a gift sub, I guess, if you gift a single sub to a person. I'm just surprised that I failed to acknowledge that this was a thing I needed to set up. So you would want... Oh, boy. Probably I should set up an action where if you gift like 5 subs, there's a multiplier for that, so it's specific to that. I think I'm just gonna have to like add it manually now. Let's call it a bomb. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the terminology, right? I realize that you can't really see what I'm fucking around with here, but this is all behind the scenes magic. Per tier and subs. What was it? Okay, add new range. Because the thing is, I could have, if I set this up with the actions I have here, and it says like tier 1, like it would probably just count, it would play the action as if you subscribed once. But obviously if you're gifting 5 subs, it should be played 5 times, or at least add 5 times the amount. So I think I'm gonna need to actually set up new actions for this. Which I had not realized. But in the meantime, I wonder if I can do... Yeah, I can't just have it play the action 5 times. Like, I can't trigger it to do that. I have to create, like, a multi-action, blah, 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 some other thing. But what I can do is I can try... So if I test this... Okay, yeah. That's the equivalent of 1 sub. So I'll just do that 5 times. And definitely the little graphic on the bottom there that shows the number, and then it's going to hide after a little bit and come back. Like, that's going to break totally if something happens, like, multiple times. And that's something I couldn't figure out a workaround for, and I figured, you know what? It's going to look a little ugly, but that's fine. So that's 2 gifted subs. Click it a 3rd time. That's a 3rd one. 4th one. So yeah, that would add by 1,000. That checks out. And a 5th one. All right. Okay. Thank you again, Track Zero. And thank you also for exposing flaws in my system that I was not aware of. Now I know that I have things I need to fix. But at least we got some new members of the Skull Club. We got a few returning members, I believe. And we have some increased funding here for our Q branch research and development, which is greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. So, with that figured out and taken care of, at least for now, let's return to take a look at Ian Fleming's James Bond 007 in Live and Let Die, the computer game. Such an amazing title. Developed by Elite Systems, at least I suppose the Amiga version, the main version. This, as you can see, also had several ports: the Amiga, the Atari ST, Commodore 64, Amstrad CPC, and the ZX Spectrum. There was no new Bond movie, so I guess they made a game on an old Bond movie, or at least based on one scene from one old Bond movie. As 007, you have been given a top-secret mission to find the drug baron Mr. Big, who is planning to flood America with tons of heroin. To help you, Q has given you his latest gadget, the fastest and most dangerous speedboat ever made. 007 must travel along the various waterways, shooting bullets and missiles at the red targets. That sounds exciting. Avoiding mines and dive-bombing helicopters, planes, submarines, and boats. So yeah, it's weird. Like, The Living Daylights, of course, has a very cool poster. They just put the poster on the box, basically. It looks sick. A lot of Bond movies have pretty cool posters. Live and Let Die actually has an amazingly cool poster. In fact, let's, hang on. Yeah, check this out. I guess we can do... Is this gonna work? Nope, I need to do this. Look at this shit. Like, this is a sick poster. Fucking Baron Samedi and everything. Like, look at all this. We've got the speedboats. We've got this fucking Resident Evil 2 giant crocodile. Look at all these speedboats. Pretty sick. But no, we get this. Which, to me, when I look at this, all I can think of is those, like, third world movie posters from, like, Ghana or, like, South Asia or whatever, where they don't have, like, any materials, so someone has to paint an original poster based on, like, their loose understanding of the plot of the film. That's kind of what this looks like. It's, like, slightly more sophisticated, the painting techniques, maybe. But, like, you know, it's got a speedboat and explosion. I mean, in fairness, I think this is probably a more fair representation of the game than the actual movie poster. But it's not very cool looking. I mean, yeah. I would... You could have... Well, maybe the problem is... Actually, probably... I was going to say, maybe the problem is, you know, Roger Moore is, like, prominently featured on the box, and maybe he's not in the game, and that would be a sensitive thing. But this was still the 80s, so that seems unlikely. And obviously, Timothy Dalton is featured prominently on the Living Daylights box, so I don't think that's it. It's just peculiar. In any case, this is a game where you drive a boat, and that is the entire game. It's like this pole position style classic third-person driving perspective, and you drive through these rivers, and you shoot targets, and there's helicopters and mines and obstacles and stuff. And I played a tiny bit of it, and it seems really fucking hard, but that's to be expected. That's what I'm expecting of all these computer games. And I believe that probably, you know, hopefully some of these games, some of these versions at least, will have trainers that will allow us to at least see what the game has to offer from beginning to end. So we at least have witnessed all the action, all the stages, and all that stuff. In order to prepare for the experience of playing this game, we will be watching the movie, as we do every now and then. Normally on my Discord on Saturday nights, we watch video game movies, as we've been doing for a couple of months now. It's been a good time. most recently, we did a impromptu double feature of Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Always a great time. But I had some trouble figuring out the schedule here, so we kind of killed two birds with one stone and decided to do a regular movie night and also catch up here on James Bond. So we don't lag behind too much with not finding time to watch the movie and not being able to advance with playing the games, etc. So from 9 p.m. Central European Time, that is 4.5 hours from now, we will be watching Live and Let Die. So, in order to hype ourselves up for that, why don't we check out a trailer for Live and Let Die? Let's do this. Fade out the jams, and let's check out the trailer.
Roger Moore is James Bond 007 in Ian Fleming's Live and Let Die.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
Names is for tombstones, baby. Waste him, now.
James Bond is back, and wherever he drops in, it can mean only one thing.
Trouble!
This is the Bond adventure with more excitement, more action, more danger, and more. Much more. Roger Moore as James Bond 007. .007 is on a worldwide manhunt. The body count is going up. And where Bond stops to visit, he leaves his mark. On everything.
They'll kill you.
They will kill us. Lover's lesson number 2, togetherness.
Is there time before we leave for lesson number 3?
Absolutely.
Take your seat and hang on.
If any man can show just cause...
Always fucking crashing weddings, every movie.
Because Bond is on the move. And if you miss this one, you'll miss the most exciting 007 adventure of them all.
Pretty sick trailer, I have to say. I'm pretty pumped to see this. It's a cool trailer. I like that it's like, I mean, yeah, I just really like this classic style of movie trailer that doesn't like, it's not very focused on narrative and plot. Yeah, it's a long trailer too. Like trailers used to be pretty long. It's like just selling you on the idea of Roger Moore being fucking cool as shit because he's James Bond. And I mean, they're not wrong, I think, just at least judging from the trailer. It's really fascinating. Like, I've seen more Bond movies than I haven't, for sure. I feel like I really liked Bond movies as a kid, so I watched, you know, plenty of them. But I don't necessarily remember too clearly what's, you know, from which movie and whatnot. A View to a Kill being a little bit of the exception, because I think I had that on VHS. So it wasn't like a rental or just watching it on TV. Like that was the one I would watch and rewatch the most often. And I also had the comic book adaptation of it for some reason. Funnily enough, though, like I don't remember the story very much. I mean, I do now, having rewatched it and played the game and everything, but like the stuff I remember from back then was more about specific visuals or set pieces and that kind of thing, characters, not so much the, you know, the story. But the story of View to a Kill is also like not that exciting, I guess. But it is fascinating. Of course, like one of the big kind of things about that film that Roger Moore himself was always like very vocal about was that like he was just too old for the role, and like he's not, of all the, like, I don't know. I mean, he seems pretty, he seemed like he was pretty what's the word? Kind of like he was happy to kind of make fun of himself and everything, you know. He wasn't very uptight about that kind of stuff. So it seemed like he was quick to point out like that, you know, he was too old for the role by the time A View to a Kill came around, and like it wasn't a good movie. He was not very proud of it or whatever. But it's fascinating to see like this. Live and Let Die was 73, and A View to a Kill was 85. 12 years in terms of like someone aging is a lot, you know, or not just 12 years, but like the difference between being, what was he, 57 in A View to a Kill? The difference between being 45 and 57 was a lot bigger back then than it is today. You know, you have a lot of, you know, action movie stars or whatever. Well, maybe not a lot, but certainly a lot of celebrities, big time movie star type dudes who are like, you know, no one in that kind of tier of celebrity would be considered like past their prime or like an old man by the time they're in their mid 50s. You know, you have like Tom Cruise is like 60 or whatever, right? Like it's not, you're not old until you're like fucking physically decrepit, and you, if you have the money, I guess, for, you know, whether it's diet or surgery or exercise or probably some combination of all of the above, you're not going to look or seem that old by the time you're 50. But even so, like, it's, I think it's really striking looking at this trailer, how much more virile he looks. I don't know, like he looks obviously younger, but he looks so much more like not just handsome, but like you believe, I think from that trailer, like Roger Moore is believable as like an action star. Like even the tiny moments of him like throwing a punch or like, I don't know, fucking wearing a tight turtleneck sweater, like he just looks good. And he like, you know, seeing him in A View to a Kill, he just feels not like believable. And it was such an amazingly stark contrast going from that to The Living Daylights, because Timothy Dalton just has so much more energy and kind of urgency to his performance. Whereas A View to a Kill, Roger Moore is like completely, you know, not just like slow because he's old, but just like has this very relaxed attitude towards everything. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, like science, definitely advancements, like both in medical science in general, but also, of course, like, yeah, nutrition and exercise and all these kind of things. Like, yeah, you know, not just athletes, but many kind of, you know, celebrities or whatever probably don't chain smoke. I mean, people in general don't smoke and drink the way they probably did 40 years ago. So, you know, it's still, you know, a lot of things change like that, but it's still kind of amazing to see. But yeah, because this would have been, from the way they talk in the trailer, surely this was not the first Roger Moore trailer or a Roger Moore movie. But yeah, On Her Majesty's Secret Service was what, 69? Something like that? So 73, I guess this was maybe his like second, because he did 7 films, I think. And the last one was View to a Kill in 85. In any case, he was certainly, yeah. Oh, this was the first one? Huh. Maybe, I guess he was known from like the Saint or whatever, right? So they would talk about him in the trailer like he wasn't like an unknown quantity. Um, it's just interesting. Again, too, like doing 7 movies in 12 years. Movies take longer to make nowadays, I guess. But that's funny. Like, it was certainly not planned that way, but it makes for an interesting comparison too. Then, if we just saw the last Roger Moore movie, and if this gets to be the first that we watch next, and then of course after Live and Let Die, the next game after that will be License to Kill. Yeah, it's a pretty ugly box, but there's a few other versions I think too. And I'm excited to not rewatch that movie, to watch it for the first time. I haven't seen it for some reason. The 2 Timothy Dalton movies were like a I haven't watched On Her Majesty's Secret Service either, and that one I know is supposed to be pretty well regarded nowadays. Unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say unfortunately that like we won't necessarily cover that game, but I believe yeah, mission number 50, 007 Legends, the final game in the marathon, has chapters based on movies. Goldfinger, like there's one movie per Bond actor, even though Daniel Craig is the Bond in the film. So this game has Goldfinger, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Moonraker, License to Kill, Die Another Day, and Skyfall. So we should definitely watch all 5 of these movies. You know, by the time we get here, it'll have been so long that I don't think, you know, it'll be an issue to rewatch. I mean, certainly Goldfinger, dude. I could fucking rewatch Goldfinger next week. That movie was great. But we should probably watch all 5 of these in, I don't know, 2 years when we get to this game. Yeah, Goldfinger was a great time. Really fun movie. Anyway, Live and Let Die tonight, and we may or may not do James Bond on Monday. But I want to have watched the movie just to have it all prepped and ready to go. We'll see. But with that out of the way, I'll take another short break. And I don't know, maybe we'll jump back into what's it called? Gotham Knights. I didn't really have anything else planned for the stream today. I wasn't sure how long we'd go and what we'd do for today. I currently also don't have my RetroTink on hand. I lent it out yesterday for the party thing I was at, so I don't have access to the old consoles anyway. But we can mess around with Gotham Knights or something, I guess. We'll see. Moonraker, Maximum Roger Moore silliness. Yeah, that, like, I do remember some bits from that movie for sure. Want to rewatch Pink Panther? Yeah, I feel like I watched some of those when I was a kid. I remember, of course, mainly the first impression and like memory from the Pink Panthers, like being disappointed that it wasn't a cartoon. But I think they were pretty entertaining in their own right, even as a kid. Anyway, let's take a break and return with some non-Bond video gaming. I'll see you guys in a little bit.